Welcome to your second week of business economics. This week we'll introduce one of the more fundamental concepts of economics, and that is the theory of demand and supply. We will also review elasticity. The quantity demanded is the amount of a product or service people are willing to buy at a certain price. The relationship between price and the quantity demanded is known as the demand relationship. The quantity supplied refers to the amount of a certain good or service producers are willing to supply when receiving a certain price. The correlation between price and how much of a good or service is supplied to the market is known as the supply relationship. Price, therefore, is a reflection of supply and demand. The relationship between demand and supply underlie the forces behind the allocation of scarce resources. In market economy, demand and supply theory will allocate resources in the most efficient way possible. How? Well, let us take a closer look at the law of demand and supply. The law of demand states that if all other factors remain equal, the higher the price of a good or service, the less people demand that good or service. In other words, the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. In your notes, you'll see that the demand curve is downward sloping and negatively correlated with price. Like the law of demand, the law of supply demonstrates that quantities that will be sold at a certain price. But unlike the law of demand, the supply relationship shows an upward slope, reflecting the fact that the price and quantity are positively correlated. This means that the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied. Producers supply more at a higher price because selling a higher price reflects in higher revenue. When supply and demand are equal, the economy is said to be at equilibrium. At this point, the allocation of goods is at the most efficient because the amount of a good or service being supplied is exactly the same as the amount being demanded. As you can see in your notes, equilibrium occurs at the intersection of the demand and supply curve. In reality, market equilibrium is difficult to achieve and even harder to maintain as prices of goods and services are constantly changing in relation to fluctuations in demand and supply. The degree to which a demand or supply curve reacts to a change in price is the curve's elasticity. A good or service is considered to be highly elastic if a slight change in the price leads to a sharp change in the quantity demanded or supplied. Usually these kinds of products are readily available in the market, and a person may not necessarily need them in his or her daily life. On the other hand, an inelastic good or service is one in which changes in price witness only modest changes in the quantity demanded or supplied, if any at all. Understanding elasticity ensures you also understand why governments predominantly tax inelastic goods such as fuel, alcohol, and cigarettes.